Welcome, everyone, to the Success Elevated podcast. As always, I'm your host, Hayden Lee, and I am joined this week by a very special guest. I love having teammates here at Spot On Solutions join me for podcasts for a lot of reasons, because I feel like I know them pretty well. So I don't ask any dumb questions, which I will still probably figure out a way to do. But I really like it because I feel like it's fun to chat with a team member about how we're trying to help elevate people and businesses here at Spot On Solutions. So without any further ado, I'm joined this week by our Director of Sales here at Spot On Solutions, Bryce Johnson. Bryce, thanks for coming on the show.
Hey, Hayden, thanks for having me. This was quite the surprise to come on the show, so appreciate the invite.
Yeah, this is going to be awesome, man. I'm excited. I've obviously spent the last little while getting to know you, and it's been fun working with you. And this is going to be an awesome episode because we get to talk about all things pertaining to and surrounding sales, which I know is something you're pretty passionate about. It's something that you spend obviously the majority of your day worrying about and figuring out how to get close and build relationships with people, and how to elevate and your own internal team kind of do the same. And so my first question that I like to kind of kick things off with, and I feel like would be kind of a good place to start. Bryce, why are you a sales guy? Why have you been so passionate about sales? Why is it something that you're interested in? Why is Bryce Johnson a sales guy?
It's an interesting question. When I come to think about why I'm a sales guy and the road there, I've always kind of been a sales guy. When I was younger, I was the kid selling mechanical pencils in school or whatever, right? Or this and that. I remember in the 6th grade, we had a teacher that would only let us use a regular wood pencil. And I found some mechanical pencils that actually looked like a wooden pencil and sold them to classmates, right? And flipped them. So
That's
I've always
awesome.
seen some opportunities like that, but it hasn't always been that way. I actually went into college wanting to study marketing, was a marketing major. And it just so ended up that I had a full-time job at an inside sales office and offered to go salary and full-time with benefits while I was in school. And I said, yeah, I want to take that. So it's kind of an accident. I found myself in sales professionally probably for about the last 9 years now. Ended up changing my major, and I've never looked back.
That's awesome, man. I love the idea of talking about selling the mechanical pencils. We had a guy come on the podcast. This was a handful of episodes ago. Well, more than a handful of episodes ago, but he talked about yeah, the reason that he's in sales today or involved in any way, shape, or form was because of those experiences as a kid. He talked about selling people, produce on the street to friends and family and neighbors and stuff like that, right? Like that's cool. It's just been something that's in your blood since day one. I feel like it's in the Johnson blood a little bit too, right? Like you're obviously first cousins with Michael Johnson, who's our owner here at Spot On Solutions.
Yep.
And your father has done some sales throughout his life. Like I feel like it's just kind of in the Johnson blood at this point.
Sales and entrepreneurship definitely is. I've learned a lot from them and look up to them. It's definitely interesting the way things have all panned out. I guess when it comes down to it with, I kind of tell a little bit of a joke sometimes that I can be creative. I'm not the most creative, especially when talking to people about doing social media, and they say, "Oh, what would you say here? What'd you do there?" And it takes me a second to figure out what I would say, and it doesn't sound great. And then I say, well, that's the reason I'm in sales and not in marketing, right? So
There you go. I love it. Well, I think this conversation leads very easily into this is a curveball question that I'm going to throw you, because I would be remiss if I didn't ask this, right?
Yeah.
Why is there a negative connotation when it comes to like sales guys? Like when I think of, anytime I hear the word sales, I think of like a shisty used car salesman. You know what I mean? Like that's what when somebody's like, I work in sales, I'm like, oof. Do I want to be friends with you? You know what I mean? Like it just feels a little weird. And why do you feel like, and maybe I'm in the minority. Maybe I shouldn't feel that way, but like, do you feel like there's a negative connotation when it comes to some certain aspects, and why do you feel that is?
Yeah, no, I definitely do. And you mentioned the used car salesman thing, right? And just that sleazy salesperson that's gonna absolutely sell you and get you on something, so to speak, right? And I definitely that comes into the mindset of being in sales and how you perceive yourself and what you're selling. That you are selling something that at the end of the day you can feel good about and sleep at night, all right with.
Yeah.
And you know, um, when I think about it, and I actually train around this in that mindset, is you can get to the point where you can be really good at sales. And I got to this point. I was there probably about 5 6 years ago, where I felt like I was pretty cool stuff and was doing a pretty good job, and someone would throw an objection my way and I knew exactly how to handle it. And I literally had described this to people, and I feel kind of ashamed for it, that I was the cat, and if someone answered the phone, that they were the mouse. And I had them right there was no way, and no matter what they said, I could respond back and respond well and get them to do kind of what I wanted them to do. Not always, right? I wasn't 100% successful, of course, but I felt like I got to a point where I was pretty good. But in doing that, I viewed myself kind of through the wrong lens. That maybe is more so associated with that negative connotation that people have. Since I've matured and developed a little more into a different kind of mindset on this, that sales should be more collaborative. And
Mm.
what I mean by that, you and me, if I'm selling something to you, sitting across from the table from each other, and as a salesperson, I'm not really telling you everything.
Yeah.
As the client, maybe you're not telling me everything either. And what that comes down to is that there might be a competitive advantage if I withhold information, if you withhold information, if we don't say everything to each other. The difference in what I see myself at now and in the recent past, and that I like to teach the people that I work with about, is that you want to get on around to the other side of the table and sit next to the person that you're working with a collaborative sell that's mutually beneficial. And that's just fantastic, right? To get to that point. And when you find someone and something that is like that and treats you like that, that understands you and your goals, that's where and they can help you with that. That's where you get to kind of elevate the way that you may act as a salesperson.
I love it. And well, it all comes back to kind of the initial thing you said, right? Which is it has to be, in order to have that collaborative like sales process and to be able to get on the same side of the table as your customer or your client or whoever it is, you have to actually believe that what you're selling is good and that it's going to be good for them, right? Like, I know this is a piece of the story that we don't share super often at Spot On Solutions, but I think it is relevant here. Is before Spot On Solutions was a thing, before Katie and Derek and Michael started Spot On Solutions, Katie and Michael worked at a pretty large digital marketing agency where they worked with some clients and tried to help them grow their businesses. And it got to a point that both of them felt uneasy speaking to their clients about the service that they were providing because they didn't feel like it was doing anything for their clients, right? And it was kind of the birthplace of Spot On Solutions, and in turn our sister company Get Found First, that they wanted to create an agency and a business where they could feel confident that what they were doing was actually making a difference for their clients. And it was a much easier sell for them in the long run to be like, hey, this is really going to benefit you, because they knew it was going to benefit them, right? And I think that's such a crucial piece. It's a crucial initial piece of sales, that like you have to actually believe you're going to make a difference and you're going to help your customer, your client, whoever it is. Mm-hmm. The big thing that the next thing that I feel like I wanted to kind of pick your brain a little bit about, because this has all been awesome, and I love these pieces of conversation when it comes to getting rid of some of that negative connotation. I want to talk a little bit about kind of a two-piece question that I think would relate really well to the industry that we serve, right? Which is the restoration, cleaning, home service-based industries. The first part of the question I would ask you is, what makes a good salesperson? And the second part, just to kind of keep it in your mind, is what do you feel like, or how should a business owner hire a sales position? What are some skills that they should look for? How does, because it's a common thing that I hear, at least when I'm talking with clients all the time, is they're always looking for better, business development representatives, or they're looking for a better in-house salesperson. Like, they're looking for ways to grow their businesses, and they know that digital marketing can do it, but they know that they also need somebody on their sales team to help them grow their restoration, carpet cleaning, whatever it is. And so, first part of that question, what do you think makes like a successful salesperson? You talked about the collaborative aspect of it, but what are some other things that make a successful salesperson?
First off, it's going to be energy drinks for sure.
That's the first thing. Some caffeine. Okay. All right. I'm there with you. I'm at step one. Okay. All right. Here we go.
Reality is it's hey, this is my one a day. This is like my daily vitamin, right?
Hey, you gotta have it. You gotta have it.
Seems there's never enough time in the day, and there's a lot of work. So I mean, you gotta have someone that's hardworking, and an energy drink or something could definitely be a help to let someone do that.
There you go.
All joking aside, I like to think of the 10,000 hour rule. The principle that it takes about 10,000 hours of practicing something the right way to become an expert at that, right? That's kind of what it takes. Now, to get there, you got to do the right practice. You got to, earn your stripes. You got to follow the right steps. And so I think another thing that it takes to be really good at sales, you got to be like a lifelong learner, right? You got to be willing to always up your game and step up and level up to improve what your process is like. It's hard, as a sales individual and as a sales manager to, just sit there and just hammer in, oh, this is your monthly goal or whatever, and try and hit that, right?
Yeah.
But it's not that you hammer that. I think it's hammering, down, okay, this is the process. And if you can master this process, then you're going to be successful. Then you'll hit that goal. So there's value there when you're having a hard time, instead of just trying harder, to step back and say, what's not working right, and work on improving that. And it seems counterintuitive, because if you're short on a goal and working hard for that, and you're just doing it over and over, you're still not going to get where you want to go. You don't want to stop, but that's really what you need to do is take a step back and look at that. So
I love it. I love the lifelong learner thing is so important, because the industries that we serve and that our clients are in day in, day out, they change all the time. There's always something new. There's a new challenge. There's even something as simple as like, there's a new weather event coming in, right? Like, and every job of, that I talk to, every job that one of my clients lands is going to be different than the past one, right? Like there's going to be some similarities. Oh, there's water in a basement, or, oh, there's a carpet that needs cleaned. So there's always going to be some similarities, but there's always a unique challenge. And so your sales team has to be able to do the same thing and face those new challenges and learn new ways to develop themselves so that they can face those new challenges. And yeah, I love that whole concept that being a lifelong learner, man, it's something you can't avoid. And if you really want to progress and grow as an individual, like, it's something you've got to be willing to do, for sure.
That's a big part of that. I think doing that and having some success and relying on that then kind of builds some confidence too. I know one of my first professional sales jobs at an inside sales center, the first sale I ever made actually was kind of, set up for me. The manager actually had talked to someone, and they seemed pretty interested, and he said, hold on just a second. Do you mind if I have one of my new guys give you a call, actually? So I got a lot of credit his way, right? Because that first one, like, getting the monkey off your back is just so big. So if you can develop that confidence and build that, that's really important too. A couple other things I would say is to not question your gut. That as a salesperson, you're going to have a gut feeling of, okay, do I send this email? Do I call this person again, or whatever that looks like? And I go by the principle that if your gut is having that feeling, you should just do it and not worry about thinking about it. Just do it and see what happens.
I love it.
And then lastly, on what it takes to be good at sales, I would say is knowing when to give up.
Yeah.
We talk about that sleazy, salesperson that's annoying. And I think, something that comes to mind is just that salesperson that's a little bit annoying and buggy and just, super persistent and calls you every day. You get that telemarketer or whatever, right? And I can be persistent. I can chase someone down. But there comes a point to where it's, you know, more so being a pest than pleasantly persistent and staying top of mind. And so knowing when to give up, I think time management with that is really what that comes down to, is that, you know, the client is only worth however much. For example, a job is worth however much, and how much time does it take to get that, and versus, you know, going and working on someone new. And I think that's a really big sign of sales expertise and maturity, is that time management of knowing when it's not worth it anymore to chase that one down and work on another one.
That's amazing. Yeah, the time management thing is not something I thought of when it came to sales, but it's so crucial, right? Like, if you're managing your time effectively, it's you'll know when you need to be persistent, right? When you need to maybe follow up again, send another email, make another phone call, or whether you need to be like, oh, I'm going to move on. We're going to move on to the next job. We're going to move on to I'm going to talk to the next property manager. Or I'm going to talk to the next homeowner, or whatever it is. Like, I'm not going to keep following up with this person, because of a time management thing, not because I'm giving up, but simply based on, I've spent the amount of time that I said I was going to spend on this, and I'm sticking to my schedule. And so that's it. And I'm going to move on. And, oh, it closed. Awesome. Or, oh, it didn't. Okay. No worries. I'm moving on. So I love that.
Not all sales are,
oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, just not all sales are created equal, right?
Yep.
There's some that are much larger and more valuable. And so to kind of look at that and be able to gauge that, you know, and the variance in those is important. And then I do feel like at that point where you are kind of giving up on someone, it's really helpful actually to send them a note and just let them know professionally that you've reached out, followed whatever agreed upon timeline that they gave, and even a few more times, and you haven't heard back, and just letting them know that, hey, like, you know, we want to do business with someone who wants to do business with us too. So if you'd like to, doors open, but if not, I'm going to kind of table this for now. And doing that professionally has actually been successful for me, and people that have, you know, decided to ultimately, oh yeah, just a second, I didn't realize you're stepping away from this right now. Let's get this taken care of, right? So
yeah, I love it. The next piece to this kind of whole conversation then is, what are some ways, or what are some not some ways, what are some skills or some things that business owners need to be aware of, especially in the industries that we serve, restoration, cleaning, home service companies? What are some skill sets that business owners need to be aware of when they go to hire a new salesperson, right? Because I would anticipate, and maybe, I have talked to clients of mine that have hired business development representatives that have no business development experience, but these people have skills in other aspects that made them attractive to the business owner. So what are some skills, if you owned a business and were looking to hire somebody in sales, there was going to be a lot of in-person sales conversations, what are some skills that you would look to hire for?
I think professionalism, confidence, and communication really stand out as kind of initial three that are like table stakes to like even consider. You got to have those to be a part of that. You know, some of those not tools, some of the skills can be taught, but they got to have kind of those foundational pieces there, that work ethic and those character traits. Those really are more so foundational. Beyond that, when I'm looking for someone to, you know, evaluating whether or not they should come on to our team and that I want to work with, is, you know, did they sell themselves? If they're trying to be a salesperson, did they network into you? Did they follow up? Are they one of the ones taking the initiative? Or are you going to have someone that's literally just sitting there waiting for you to check back in? And how well does that paint the picture of what they're going to do when they're representing your company and trying to sell, you know, your products or services, if they're not even willing to sell themselves, right? And use their own skills and treat their job search or application as their profession.
I love that. Did they sell themselves to you? That's great, right? Like, that's such a simple test to be like, yeah, are they going to be good at sales? Well, did they follow up with me when we scheduled an interview? Did they, you know, reach out when they had questions? Like,
Right.
I love that. Did they sell themselves? That's a simple little test to know, is this really going to work out? Because at the end of the day, again, this might be personal opinion, but I feel like we've seen it as our team has grown here at Spot On Solutions. And I'm sure you've felt the same way as you've hired more people for our sales team. But I would rather somebody have some of those soft skills, like like you're saying, professionalism, communication, they're hardworking, right? Like I would rather have someone that has some of those soft skills and we have to teach them maybe more technical skills than it be the other way around, right? Like I love the idea that somebody comes in and they work hard, they communicate, they know they work well with a team. We can teach them how to clean carpets or how to dry out drywall, right? Like we can teach somebody to do that. We can teach them the technical skills, but we want them to have kind of some of these soft skills already built in so that they can develop, these sales type relationships.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that even goes back to even your background and mine, Hayden, right?
Yeah.
Like you
Yeah.
were an engineering major, right?
Yeah. 100%. Yep.
Digital marketing and account management. So it's the right people, not necessarily that it's got to be the right things there, right?
Yeah. I love it. What do you feel like, if we're kind of putting ourselves in the shoes of a business owner, they've identified, what makes a good salesperson. They've tried to maybe develop that within themselves as they've grown their business. They've hired some really qualified individuals they feel like are going to help them grow their business and build their sales team right. We've gotten to this point. What are some tools that the business owner can give to their sales team to help them be more successful? Or what do you feel like are either some tools in the tool belt, or some things that sales team need to develop, especially in the restoration industry, that will help them grow that business? What do you feel like are some skills or some techniques? What do you feel like would be helpful for the restoration industry when it came to sales?
Like I talked about earlier with, continued, education and lifelong learner, if they can open up the doors for some additional training, mentorship, courses, that's definitely going to be something that goes a long ways. That's a well worthwhile investment. There's definitely a case to be made of, do you have a large team or more people, or do you have more capability for the smaller team that you have, right? And so if you invest in, in tech sales, where I came from before, we call it the tech stack, right? And all the technology and software that you use. And it could have been for emailing and calling and data intelligence and CRM and automation, things that way. All those things, and the cost of that can literally range, from a few hundred to thousands and thousands of dollars per rep per month in that tech stack. But by improving that tech stack, improving those tools, you make your salesperson however much more effective than they would be without that.
Yeah.
So I think, a big thing there is, but get the person, get them some training, open that up. A lot of people in sales, they want to grow, they want more. That's why they're in sales, because they know that there's, very often, more so unlimited, opportunity for compensation.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Based on how
And
you perform.
oh, go ahead. Sorry.
What you're saying is based on how you perform.
Yeah. Yeah. There's some pieces there that I feel like too, that a lot of restoration companies, again, I say a lot, that's probably in excess, but there are definitely some restoration companies that I feel like miss when it comes to sales. We were talking before we started recording, as we were kind of prepping for this podcast, that, one thing that like the sales team at a restoration company needs to make sure they're really good at is something as simple as like answering the phone, right?
Oh,
Like
totally.
that's a huge piece to this. And I think a lot of businesses don't recognize that like their customer service reps are part of their sales team, right? Like you can have like a business development rep, like a dedicated person that's going out and meeting with property managers and homeowners and going to chamber of commerce events and doing all this stuff. But your sales team really kind of starts with your CSR. And that person has got to be great on the phones, because if they're not, it might not ever get to the point where they're working with a BDR or something, right? Like I think like something as simple as answering the phone and answering it effectively can make all the difference for your sales team. And it seems like a simple concept, but it's something that's missed. I don't know why. Do you know why it maybe would be something that people miss out on a lot?
I'm not sure. The same thing drives me absolutely just nuts. And I think that's why we talked about it. Like, how are you
Yeah.
successful in sales? Like, you got to answer the freaking phone. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm the guy, I do not miss a phone call. And if I miss a call because I'm in a meeting or something like this, I'm calling the person right back the next chance I get, because it could be someone trying to call me back. Right.
Yep.
So I take all those calls. I'll talk to a telemarketer, and yeah, if it's that, I'll just probably, kindly tell them I'm not interested, and try and respect them as a salesperson too, right? But for sure, you got to answer the phone. And so when we talk of like restoration and other construction trades, blue collar industries and sales, that receptionist really, I think, probably has, the receptionist, their customer service representative really has the biggest effect on kind of a lever you can pull to improve your sales capability.
Yeah.
uh, you have, I mean, you probably have some experience by working with clients of people who aren't answering the phone maybe as frequently. And
Yeah.
I know we've actually even told clients sometimes, upon, reviewing the calls that we're helping them get by the ads we're running for them and doing SEO and other things, that, hey, you got this many calls, you got, 10 calls last week, but you only answered the phone twice. You had 8 that you left that went to voicemail, that you
Yep.
left just hanging out there, that, we went and got for you. So we try and, provide that little bit of coaching, but you got to answer the phone and answer the
Got
phone
to.
effectively.
You got
And
to.
that's
And
something I run into as we prospect, right? I
yeah.
call, they don't answer the phone, and it's, it just, lets you know what kind of opportunities they may be missing out on.
Mhm.
So I think, having a really good phone and answering system is really important in terms of those tools for a restoration company. Make sure those calls are recorded if you can. Coach your reps on their handling of the phone calls, right? So they can get the feedback they need to be successful on their, um, that's probably the biggest thing to sharpen that. So
Derek, I'm pretty sure we did a whole podcast on this. Derek really talked about his call script that he kind of developed over the years when he had his restoration company. But when he first, before Spot On Solutions was even a thing, right? And we've told this story multiple times. He was a client of Katie and Michael's,
mhm.
and they were recording phone calls, which is something that's common in the marketing world, in the digital marketing space. It's something that we do for all of our clients. When we run ads for you, we record those calls through a call tracking service that helps us know, hey, are these ads working for you? Are they producing phone calls? And Michael had a conversation with Derek and was like, hey, man, I think we might need to work on how you guys answer the phones. And Derek was like, we're amazing at answering the phones. What are you talking about? We're so good at it. And Michael's like, well, I think you got to listen to some of these calls. And Derek listened to him and was like, oh my gosh, we're either not answering the phones or we're not answering them effectively. And like some of those key pieces are so important, especially in the restoration world, because I would even argue, I'll even take it a step further. Bryce, you're really awesome at getting back to people, and that's great. And I think that's obviously, if you miss a call, you got to get back to them. But I've found in the restoration world, when it comes to emergency water damage or emergency fire, whatever it is, that if you don't answer, if somebody is not answering, actively answering, that's not returning phone calls or returning a voicemail. If somebody is not answering the phones, you are most likely going to lose that job.
Oh, for sure.
If because it's an emergency, people aren't going to go through and leave 10 voicemails. Like they're not going to call 10 companies and to try and get a hold of them. They're going to call, and if it rings more than 3 or 4 times, they're probably going to hang up. They're probably not even going to wait for it to go to voicemail. If it rings 3 or 4 times and they're not talking to a real person, most of the time they're going to hang up. And so it's so important. It's such a simple concept. It seems so silly that we're even talking about it, but it's such a crucial piece to this, is like, hey, answer your phone calls. Make sure you have somebody that knows what they're doing on the phones, because that's the first step to this whole sales process. Is like, you've got to have somebody good on the phones that answers them promptly, that can explain everything that's going on. Like, that's a piece. And then this is another thing that I tell clients all the time that clients are awesome at. I have amazing clients that are great at this, but I've listened to some phone calls where people will answer and just say hello and won't say who they're with. And it's so frustrating. It's like, this customer calls in and is obviously stressed out. They've got something going on, and they call in and the business just says hello. And it's like, tell them who you are. They've clicked on an ad, they've called you. And for you not to say hello, this is such and such restoration, how can I help you? For you to just say hello, like they're
Right.
immediately from the get-go are just like frustrated with you and are like,
Just
why the heck did I call this company?
And see, you listen to more calls like that than I do by and large, but even just like how you're saying that, it's like they're almost kind of frustrated and annoyed at,
Yeah.
oh, hello, another phone
Yep.
call. For us at Spot On Solutions, I think kind of sets us apart, I guess, in talking about this is, we're positioned more so as a marketing partner than just a marketing vendor. And
Yep.
I talk about this sometimes with people, but when you think about it, I talk with people and they tell me, oh, we're doing this with our marketing or this and that. And it's like, okay, well, have you considered this? No. Did you know about this ad type? That's probably one of the most successful types. No. Well, why not? And it's because the company doesn't tell them and they're just, taking their order. I feel like a marketing company, we should definitely show our expertise as order makers rather than order takers and really be a marketing partner that does step up and say, hey, it may not be an easy conversation to have, but Derek, so and so maybe needs a little help when they're answering the phone to answer that a
Yeah.
little bit,
Yeah.
or needs to go on there and provide that actual, genuine feedback to someone to help recommend them to, improve their business.
Yeah. Two thoughts, because I think you hit it on the head there. The becoming a partner thing, that whole conversation and like having some of those tough conversations, it can be challenging to do, but it's crucial. It's so important. If you own a business and you think you guys are doing awesome on the phones, get some kind of recording system set up, or just listen in to how your team is answering the phones and give some honest feedback. I think it can make all the difference and helps that become more of a partnership. Because if you're a client of ours here at Spot On Solutions, you've probably heard somebody here, an account manager, give it some kind of recommendation like that. Like, hey, let's maybe make some tweaks with how we're answering the phones, or we've got to record the phone calls to make, it's a huge piece of what we do here as in this partnership, because it's a necessary thing. The other thing that I feel like is, man, it's something that I think a lot of businesses miss. But the other thing, and you mentioned it there as you were talking, is a lot of these business owners are answering the phones themselves, which is awesome. It's awesome that they're doing that, but they wear a lot of hats. And if phones aren't getting answered, if calls aren't getting answered, I feel like that should be a perfect trigger for anybody listening to this, for anybody that owns a restoration business or, cleaning, home services of any kind. The phones aren't getting answered because you're trying to put too much on your plate. That it should be an immediate red flag that you need to hire somebody immediately. If
You
you
need
have
some
that
help.
much, well, sorry, what?
You need some help, right?
100%. If phones aren't getting answered because you're so busy and you feel like you're the only one that can do it because you do it best, that might be true. But if it is more important that those phones get answered, so you've got to hire somebody, get some help, hire somebody to do it. And that's kind of the first piece of your whole sales team, is having somebody good on the phones that is answering them. They don't even necessarily have to close everything, right? Like they can forward it on to somebody else, but you've got to have somebody there answering the phones. And so, yeah, if you're a restoration or home service business owner and you're listening to this podcast and you've missed some phone calls in the last few weeks, that should be a perfect sign that you need to go hire somebody, because that's going to make all the difference, is that somebody is there answering the phones. Last piece, Bryce, to all this, and it's something very specific to you. We were talking about this yesterday, and it was interesting, very humble of you to say you weren't very good at this, but I feel like it's a cool tool that is maybe underutilized by a lot of business development representatives out there and salespeople in the home service industry. But it's a tool called LinkedIn, right? Talk a little bit about, why do you think LinkedIn could be a good tool for like the restoration industry and for business development individuals? Maybe talk a little bit about your strategy with it. You have made some awesome posts there. I feel like you get good engagement and people are interested in what you have to post. Talk a little bit about LinkedIn as a growth tool for a business.
Yeah, I might start a little bit backwards here. I guess
Yeah,
on
you're
getting
good. You're good.
how to really make that shine for you in a role, if someone is, working in business development, specifically in the home services industry, right? So I think with LinkedIn and in anything, it's just hard to get started.
Mm,
right? LinkedIn
yep.
especially seems a little more professional, less personal. So what do you post on there? How do you differentiate that? And a lot of people, get in there and observe first off, and be, I had a former mentor call it a LinkedIn freeloader, right? Where you sit there and consume content. And once you get used to that and the pace of that, then start some posts. Introduce yourself, connect with colleagues, former colleagues, friends, whoever that may be, family. Then from there, maybe, take some company or coworkers posts, other thought leaders posts. You could reshare them with or without your thoughts on them. Just get consistent and get building a little bit of that, LinkedIn muscles, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I think after that, I would say it's important to then pause before you really start posting a lot of content and say, okay, what's the point of this? Like, be very intentional about it and what you're posting. Don't just post to post for the vanity of it. And you don't post every day. You don't have to post every week. There's got to be some meaning behind the post. And so you really want to have that, have the objective identified there of what you want to post and why. And I think determining the why first helps you determine what, right? If you guys want to look me up on LinkedIn, I share, a few different things that are related towards, hiring and recruiting salespeople. Things involved with marketing and maybe some marketing thought leadership. Some things with a marketing agency red flags that as I talk with, people that are having a marketing agency already and considering making a switch, just things that are just horror stories that you hear about, right? And just like,
Right.
hey, if you're a part of this too, because I mean, you hear about the person that spends $50,000 over the course of 6 months and gets like 2 jobs,
Right.
right? Or, the person that leaves somewhere and they literally rip out their website and gut it, and the website doesn't exist anymore. So,
Yeah.
just some of those terrible things that to just watch out for and be aware of when you're working with someone. So I really identify the audience that I have, and I make my posts under those different categories,
I
right?
love it.
And it helps out.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say it helps you plan that out, and then to plan that out, I actually have a document on my phone or computer with the notes app, and I literally just, as I have an idea that comes to me, I just throw it in there and start kind of fleshing it out a little bit. And when I need a post or I want to post, or then there's some ideas there to go off of that I can use for that.
I love it. No, LinkedIn's awesome. It's something that I'm trying to get better at. I didn't have a LinkedIn up until I started working here at Spot On Solutions. But I love just, it just feels like a lot more so than any other social media. Yeah, like you mentioned, it's very professional, but I feel like I've gained a lot of really awesome knowledge from the platform, right? And it's cool. I feel like I learn something new every day. I'm learning from different thought leaders in the industries, and it's been really like eye opening for me. And it's been a way for me to try and be a lifelong learner, to go back kind of what you originally said. If for nothing else, in my opinion, if you were a business development representative working for a restoration or home service based company, it's a great way to connect with other professionals in the industry. I work pretty closely with Kenyon and Cooper over at Restore Right. They're a client of ours. They're here locally in Blackfoot, Idaho, and they're an awesome client. They are, LinkedIn would be a great way for them. And I know they utilize LinkedIn in a lot of different ways. If you were a business development representative for Restore Right, it would be a way for you to connect with other industry professionals. If you wanted to connect with a property manager or connect with other insurance agents, right? Like, most likely they're all going to be on LinkedIn. And so it's a great place to connect with people and build relationships and share content and do it in a way that feels very organic, not and you can do it in a way that you don't feel like you have to cold call all the time. And it's a great way to do that.
It's a great way to warm up the conversation, right? If you've connected with someone on LinkedIn, and beyond just posting your own content, where you grow that is by your engagement of liking and commenting on people's posts genuinely, not just very fake simple comments. They're like, oh, I love it. Great. Like you can see right through that, right? By
Yep.
showing you put a little thought into it, they get to know you before you maybe reach out. And so, yeah, find the right people. There's some great filters there on LinkedIn you can use to find, people based on location and job title and company and, those sorts of things, mutual connections. And so do that, get connected with the property managers, insurance agents, and that's where you can really build and grow that very strategically.
Love it. Well, Bryce, this has been awesome. You've offered some really great insights into what you do and what you've done to kind of elevate yourself as a salesperson. And I feel like there's been some awesome insights for our audience. I know people are going to find some great value in this to hopefully help grow their sales team and in turn grow their business. Right. And this has been fantastic. I want to close, but I want to close with the same questions that we ask all of our guests. I'm going to put you on the spot here, right here at the end. First question, favorite book or podcast that you're reading or listening to right now, or that have read or listened to recently?
So the book, it's called New Sales Simplified, has absolutely changed the trajectory of my career professionally. That's a book that I read that talked about prospecting and outbound sales and how to do that and look at that and messaging different ways and the value propositions. And that's what propelled me to go from, an inbound rep with a bunch of, other people doing inbound, to where as an individual, I was probably producing between 40 to 70% of outbound sales for the entire company with like a team of like 9 people.
Wow.
So, that one absolutely was by and large a big, factor in my growth and success. Beyond that, a book that I really like, that I revisit periodically, is Shoe Dog by
Oh,
Phil.
yeah.
Tells the story of Nike, and how it got started, and it is a roller coaster ride. I love though to hear about just the different things that were done and the decisions that were made and all the times that it could have been nothing, or the fights that they had to get to where they were before they went public and where they are today now. I think that's really just an incredible story and super inspiring, and it's also really entertaining.
Yeah.
So I really
Love it. Those are great recommendations. And well, somebody might have said Shoe Dog, but I'm pretty sure those are 2 new books that nobody said before. So I love that. Those sound awesome. Second question. I know you wear a lot of hats, and it can be you're trying to build a sales team here at Spot On Solutions while also talking to a lot of new people every single day. How do you relax? How do you recharge your batteries at the end of a long day?
One thing I'm really passionate about, and I share often about actually on LinkedIn, is being intentional with that. So it's not just the matter of, oh, it's the end of the day, it's the weekend, I'm gonna go sit down on the couch, lounge, veg. It's a matter of what can you do to actually recharge the batteries, and you think of that analogy that way. So for me, what really just gets me recharged and that energy, the mental capacity really brought back up to where it needs to be to perform well. It's just a matter of like that quality family time. I think that's probably the biggest thing. We go do something intentional together as a family that's fun, that's invigorating. Probably, getting outside and going and, riding around on some trails or going on a hike and checking out a new adventure. So I really like that, as well as just anything that you're passionate about. For me, it may be, if I get a chance to go hunting or a chance to go out and do a little shooting or something. Those are also things that I thoroughly enjoy. So
Being intentional, man, it's something that I've 100%. I'm trying to be better at. Yeah. You've got to find some white space in your life. And I used to think that white space was just like, yeah, just vegging on the couch. And while I still do that to an extent, I think I find that it's much easier for me to decompress after a long day if I'm intentional with it. Totally. Like just take the dog for a walk, or go to dinner with my wife, or, go do something like that. That very intentional. I'm going to shut my phone off. I'm going to stop scrolling through Facebook or whatever it is, and just be very, very intentional with how I'm going to try and decompress. That's a great way to describe it.
there's a time
the other way I've heard it is to practice mindfulness. And that's something that I struggle with, but I'm trying to be better at.
No, there's definitely a time and a place for that, to literally just have that time where you're glued to your phone, maybe, or where you do those do nothing weekends where you literally sit at home and do nothing and watch TV and do a little bit of whatever, right? But I find that by getting out, you really recharge a little more usually. So
love it. Last question. This has been great. Thanks again for coming on. But if you could rewind to the beginning of it all, if you could rewind to the beginning of your career in sales, right? You're talking about you've been doing this for about 9 years now in various capacities. But if you could rewind to the beginning of it all and tell younger Bryce one thing, what would that one thing be?
I kind of realized this in about the last, year, and it really has been just to not be so afraid to make more jumps, to take more risks. Calculated risks. And I think what it comes down to is, if you're ever going to make a bet on yourself, you have the best chance of making a very good bet because you're smart, you're intelligent, you can steer the ship. So you just believe in yourself and be confident and take some of those risks. And, that can really be very rewarding.
I love it. Calculated risks, man. It seems like it's if you want to be successful in life, you've got to be willing to take some. So I love it. Bryce, thanks again for everything. This was awesome. I'm sure we're going to have you on again in the future, maybe to talk a little bit more in depth on some of the subjects we talked today, or how we're trying to help elevate, businesses and people in a bunch of different ways. But I really just appreciate you coming on. I consider you a friend. It's been awesome to get to know you over the last little while. And I'm excited for the future, both at Spot On Solutions and the future for our clients. So thanks again, man.
Thanks, Hayden. Thanks for having me on. I guess it went well enough that you're considering me for a future guest already. So
Of course, man. Of course. We're going to have you back on. This is great. And we're going to have, I'm sure, more conversations about this topic, this sales topic, because it's just such a huge part of what we do and what we're trying to help our clients do. So you're coming back on. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So it's happening.
Well, great. At the same time, I don't know if I really had much choice anyways. So
appreciate it, man. We'll talk to you later.
We'll see you. Bye, Hayden.
This has been Success Elevated, making you a little bit better one show at a time. Thanks for joining us. Please subscribe on YouTube or any other major podcast platform to listen to more episodes. We are proudly brought to you by Spot On Solutions. If you'd like to learn more about how we can help you grow your business, please check us out at spotonsolutions.com.